Welcome to Speakeasy Spirits. Today I'd like to get into some home bar basics. We'll take a look at your options for a home bar, some of the tools you need, and we'll make a mystery cocktail. Your own home bar can be anything you want it to be, from making drinks on your kitchen counter to something elaborate like a speakeasy built in your own basement. One inexpensive option to get started is to buy one of these traveling bar sets. These go for anywhere from $30 to $50 on eBay to get a vintage one. This one's from the 1960s. It can hold up to 3 bottles, and you've got all the tools and glasses you'd need. It's not anything fancy, but it'll get the job done. There are more expensive sets of these. I've seen them going for new anywhere from $100 to $350. But once we're in that price range, you've got a few other options. You can buy a pre-built bar, like this one that was a display model at a local furniture outlet. You can build something simple, like this IKEA bookcase that I've turned into a liquor cabinet. It's got plenty of storage for all of your bottles and your glassware. And if you were to clear off one of these shelves, you could make the drinks right there. Or you could do something silly, like dedicate an entire room of your house to your bar. Whether you're going to make your drinks on your kitchen counter or in a basement speakeasy, the very first thing you need are the right tools. And before you can pour a drink, or shake a drink, or stir a drink, you need to measure the ingredients. So today, I want to take a look at all of your options for measuring. Even though these all look the same, the tool has one name. This is a cocktail jigger. They're all designed a little differently, and they have their pros and cons. These two clear ones are handy to have because they have measurements in both ounces and milliliters, which is handy to have because sometimes you're looking up a recipe and you'll find one from Europe where everything's in milliliters. Instead of having to pull out your phone and figure out what 50 milliliters is in ounces, you can just grab one that's already got the measurements on it. Now, I do prefer this one because it goes up to a 2-ounce pour, while this one stops at 1.5 ounces. Now this one goes down to as small as 1/24 of an ounce. I've never seen a recipe use a size that small. Typically a 1/4 or maybe a 1/6 is the least you're going to find. Now this next one is double-sided. It's got measurements for 3/4 and 1.5 ounces. I don't particularly like this style because once I've used one side or the other, no matter where I set it down on the counter, I'm going to leave drips. And I'd rather not have to clean up after it. This is also missing any additional measurements. It only has 1.5 and 3/4 of an ounce marked, so it would be difficult to come up with an accurate 1/2 ounce measure. This one came with a set of barware. I'm happy with the rest of the set, but this is garbage. It has no measurements at all, and it's very inaccurate. I tested all of these, and they were all accurate except for this one. Without any measurements, I wasn't sure what it was. But even at 1 ounce, it comes below the edge, and 1.25 ounces goes over the top. So it's really hard to measure anything with this one. We don't need that. This next one is called a Japanese style jigger. Well, it's still a double-sided one. It's much taller. This one's a good heavy material. This one comes from Cocktail Kingdom. And on the inside, it's got lines to measure additional sizes. So this is a very good one because you can get accurate readings at least 5 different sizes. Now, I don't like that this style is double-sided, but it does have enough measurements on there to be pretty useful. This one's my favorite and the one I use all the time. It's staggered in 1/2 ounce measurements from 1/2 ounce up to 2 ounces, but because of the straight sides, it's easy to stop halfway and get a 1/4 ounce, 3/4 of an ounce, etc. There's also no mess when you set it down because it's not double-sided. You also see a lot of these come in various colors. I stay away from the colors and stick mostly with the silver. When you see these in black, copper, gold, that's typically just a finish on the outside. And over time, as you wash them, that's going to wear off and they're going to look really bad. But the silver stays good pretty much forever. These are pretty inexpensive, anywhere from about $5 and up. For a pretty good one, you're looking at about $8 to $10. I like to have 2 around. Like I said, this is my favorite. But I do like having the option of using milliliters just in case I stumble across a recipe I want to try. So what I would look for in a jigger would be a plain finish, clearly marked measurements that aren't going to wear off. It's nice when they're engraved in, and at least 1/2 ounce measurements, and something with the straight sides makes it easy to stop halfway and get those fractional measurements. Now that we've taken a look at one home bar essential, let's make a cocktail. Now today we're going to make a mystery cocktail. So I don't know what we're going to make yet. I'm going to use diffordsguide.com. This is a website with thousands of recipes. You can input all of your ingredients, anything from your spirits to what you have up in your kitchen, including even fresh fruit. Once you've input all your ingredients, you can filter the recipes by just the cocktails you'll be able to make. They also have a button that'll suggest a random recipe you can make. That's what we're going to be using today. I don't know what it'll give us, but let's find out. And our random cocktail is Le Premier Word. This sounds like it's going to be a riff on a last word, which is already one of my favorite cocktails. I'm going to need to gather up some ingredients. I'll be right back. This looks like a pretty interesting cocktail. It's based on one of my all-time favorites, The Last Word, which uses gin, green chartreuse, Luxardo, and lime juice. This one's going to change it up a little bit. Instead of lime, we're going to use lemon. And instead of the Luxardo, we're going to use a medium to dry hard cider. So we start with our lemon. We're going to need 1/4 ounce of lemon juice. One ounce of gin. I'm going to use Aviation American style gin. Now, another thing about this style of jigger I'm not particularly fond of is typically the top measure is all the way to the very top, so it can get a little messy. Now we need 3/4 ounce of green chartreuse. Now recently we're going through what they call the chartreuse apocalypse. This is made out of 150 odd herbs from the Alps that are picked by monks that come down from their monastery. Only they know the recipe, and nothing can quite match this. It's become so popular that it's very hard to find recently. The monks don't want to increase production because they want to focus on prayer, and that's made chartreuse almost impossible to find. And when you can find it, the prices are starting to skyrocket. I've seen bottles online for anywhere from $150 to $300. Normally this would go for about $60 retail. Now there are some alternatives to chartreuse if you're unable to find it. I've got 2 of them here. There's Genepi and a newer one called Vert. This one's an American spirit. This one comes from France. If you can't find chartreuse anywhere, so far this is the closest substitution I've been able to find. And typically when you do see it, it'll go for about $30 to $40 a bottle. Now we want to shake the first 3 ingredients over ice. And strain into a rocks glass, preferably over 1 large cube. And now we top it off with our dry hard cider. And that is a new one to me, Le Premier Word. The first thing you're hit with is the tartness of the lemon, followed immediately by the herbal notes of the chartreuse. And then on the finish, it hits you with a sort of appley sweetness. I don't think I prefer this over the original Last Word. That's a cocktail that just cannot be beat. But on a hot summer's day, I don't think I'd want a Last Word after mowing the yard. So this would be a good refreshing variation on it. So as I drink my Le Premier Word, one final word on measuring. One huge pet peeve of mine is when bartenders free pour. In my opinion, cocktails need to be consistent. If I order 2 cocktails, the first one should be exactly the same as the second one. And if you don't measure, you're not going to get that consistency. So much as 1/6 ounce can completely alter a drink. Something like bitters, just a dash, changes the flavor profile. So if your measurements aren't exact, you're not making the same cocktail every time. A lot of bartenders will tell you that they've got tricks for free pouring where they can count a certain number of seconds and measure it the same way every time. That's simply not true. Every spirit's going to have a different viscosity, it's going to pour at different speeds, and when a bottle is full, it's going to pour at a completely different speed than the same bottle when it's half empty. Now there are times when I don't measure everything. If I'm making a quick Mai Tai for myself, I may just use the juice of 1 full lime instead of measuring it out. But that's for myself. If I'm making a drink for friends or family, Or if I had paying customers that were ordering a drink, measure, measure, measure. Every time, get the drinks exact. It'll also help you fine-tune your own recipes. If you're trying to fine-tune a recipe and you nail it, you want to go back and know exactly how much of everything you put in there. So for the best cocktail experience, get yourself some good tools and always use them. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.